Welcome to the expansion of consciousness. I'm your host, Jason Medlock, and today we have a wonderful, wonderful guest. I'm so glad that you continue to log into the show. You continue to be a faithful listener when we talk about things that are going on in your life, when we talk about the subconscious mind. We spend time with psychic mediums and people who are in contact with beings that are on another plane. We speak about astro travel. We speak about a lot of things on this show. And one of the things I like the most is when we have outstanding storytellers, people who find the real story in someone's heart when they overcome triumph, overcome the setbacks that lead to triumph. And today we have Pat Wetzler. Pat's a storyteller with a deep-seated curiosity about resilience. And she joins the expansion of consciousness today to share her insights from her journeys and her stories she's collected that fascinates a number of her listeners and her viewers with a life-rich and experience of overcoming personal adversities. Pat has dedicated herself to exploring how individuals navigate the bumps in life's road. Through her podcast, Bump in the Road, she brings light, the universal traits of courage, hope, and resilience, showcasing the transformative power of storytelling. Pat believes that we find connection, empathy, and wisdom in sharing and listening to stories. Through these narratives, we see reflections of our own struggles and triumphs, learning that we're not alone. We're not alone in our journeys. Her work emphasizes the importance of empathy and understanding and how these moments connect us and how they can inspire us to move forward with strength and grace. So I'm glad you decided to join us in this episode as Pat shares the wisdom found in life's challenges and the impactful stories of those who have faced them, offering a perspective that resonates deeply with the essence of human resilience and growth. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Pat on the set, and let's get her set up right here. Hello, Pat. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. And you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm doing awesome. I'm going to expect a little payment at the end of this for the intro I gave you.
How about a few tweets?
I know. Give me some retweets. Give me some inbox. Give me some stuff with the email list. I'll just take that. But no, I'm just so excited. We had a chance to meet. You're such a beautiful soul and a wonderful person to speak to. And I knew, you're going to have me on your show later. It's going to be in May, but I knew that I wanted you to come on, and I'm so glad you decided to come on and share with my audience.
Well, thank you for the invite. I'm really happy to be here.
Absolutely. And let's just start it off, Pat, with your journey from significant health challenges to finding a profound sense of freedom and adventure in someone deeply, and it's so inspiring. Like, could you share what initially drew you to the sport of soaring and how it transformed your perception of reality?
Yeah, that's an interesting part of my life, actually. I'd been dealing with a neurologic disease, myasthenia gravis, which causes muscle weakness in all your voluntary muscles. So the ability to speak, to move, to breathe, are all to see, are potentially compromised. It's a fairly serious disease. About a third of the people die. About a third of the people are permanently disabled, and about a third of the people get through it. I obviously fell into the latter category, but it took about 15 years for that to occur. Well, I'm going through a very difficult divorce, dealing with all this, and I decided to go cross country and visit weekends thinking, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And when I was in Calistoga, I happened upon a curious phenomenon. There was
Mm,
an airfield that intersected the main street. And I thought, this is really bizarre. What if, it's just strange. And there was a sign that said glider rides. So I went for a ride and it was neat, but it didn't knock my socks off. Went back east and I heard about a group of lawyers that were flying gliders on weekends. So I invited myself out over a 3-day weekend and got totally hooked. And that was the beginning of the end. I learned to fly with a World War II naval aviator who could just flew by the seat of his pants. I learned so much from him. And he started off in a 2-seat trainer. Then I moved into a single seat low performance plane. And then one day I showed up at the airfield and my quote unquote, my plane wasn't there. It had been committed to an air show. So I was furious. I was just so angry. I wanted to fly. Flying is part sport and part addiction, quite frankly. So I got on the phone. I'd heard about a group of people that flew maybe an hour south out of another airport. I heard them on the radio sometimes. I got in the car, I drove down, and this airport appeared. 4 runways, multiple hangars, a fuel depot, a line of perhaps 20 beautiful white fiberglass ships sitting on the grid, getting ready to launch. It was just beyond my experience. And I took one look at that and I knew I had to do it. I joined the club on the spot. And then I realized to fly with them, I needed my own airplane, which set off a quest to find a plane. And I ended up buying a plane with a pedigree. It was built for Carl Streetic to fly in the Worlds, and I got it. So that is how I initially came into the sport of soaring. I would later move out west and fly some pretty extraordinary flights. But soaring is both a sport and for me in my life a metaphor. I mean, I went from being ill, being divorced, being just left as if I didn't matter to anybody.
yeah.
And then lo and behold, the other side of my life, I'm learning to ride the air, the energy of the air in the sky, the
Yes.
visible energy. It's a metaphor for life. To learn to go from point A to B without any apparent markers. You have to feel it, you have to sense it, and you have to make decisions.
Wow. And that's just a genuinely captivating transformation, Pat. Your experiences, they really underscore the power of embracing new challenges, and finding liberation in the most unexpected places. I love it. It's a testament to how changing your activities really can profoundly shift our perspective and our resilience. And that just leads me to my next question. In your book, Bump in the Road, you've compiled stories of courage, hope, and resilience. What common thread have you observed in how people navigate their lives, bumps, and have these stories influenced your understanding of resilience?
Oh, yeah. First, I'm fascinated by how people navigate life's bumps. One of my
Yes.
guests, Eric Weinmayer, tells a story, and this is his story, not mine. And Eric went blind at 16. Okay. So you can imagine the confusion, the isolation, the anger, everything that went with that. He went on to climb Mount Everest, blind, the 7 summits, and he spent 8 years training to kayak the Colorado River Rapids. Eric tells a story. He divides the world into 3 groups.
Mm,
And we're all part of each of these groups at different points in time, and the groups are fluid. One group are quitters, and they're self-evident. The
mm.
vast majority of people are campers. They want the status quo no matter what. They do not want change. And in all fairness to them, they may have been so beaten up by life, they don't want to put their head outside the foxhole anymore. Then very few people are climbers. I am fascinated by what it takes to go from being a camper to a climber. And I'm
Wow.
not sure that there's a concise answer. I think different people navigate things differently. But I think part of it is a mindset of possibility, even in really dark times. And I think it is a resistance to the status quo.
Mm. It's fascinating, those stories. I mean, really just to hear about the universal qualities that enable people to overcome adversity in the first place. Your insights offer a very powerful reminder of the strength within, all of us. We have to face these bumps and with courage and with hope. By sharing and reflecting on a lot of stories that people have, it seems to offer solace and sort of a roadmap to resilience, in my opinion. I mean, also you have a podcast and a book series where you share stories of overcoming challenges, and seems to be a journey in understanding sort of this human resilience and transformation. How do you believe uh, the storytelling impacts, our abilities to cope with and grow from life's challenges?
I think we have to grow from our challenges. And it's not always easy. It can be really difficult. And it's not as if life pivots at a point in time. To evolve through most of these challenges may take years. It doesn't necessarily happen quickly. But I think one of the things that I come away with, one of my personal mantras, is I always ask myself, what can I learn?
Yes.
And I think if you have that learning mindset, challenges will still appear, but they will have greater depth and resonance for how you conduct the rest of your life.
Wow. The power of storytelling really connects people,
Yeah.
and it heals, inspires. And to me, that's generally remarkable. And it's enlightening to see, how stories can serve really as mirrors, offering, a different perspective and insight into our everyday journeys. I mean, it's a beautiful way to foster community. It's just shared understanding.
Yeah. I was telling you before we came on air, there was a note on my YouTube channel
Yes.
today.
Yes.
And this woman had said, "Thank you for sharing this story. I felt so alone. It's so good to know I am not alone." And one of the things I've seen from going on 4 years of storytelling on the podcast now is that while our challenges and our paths are unique, our emotions are not. We all feel isolation. We all feel joy. We all feel jealousy. We all feel betrayal, whatever the emotion might be. And
Mm.
in those emotions, we connect. And that's where the power of story lies, is in that emotional connection. Because somebody's story may be incredibly different than yours, but you can connect with what they're going through. And in that story, there is some sort of information that you can glean that will help your life.
That's so true. And Pat, throughout your experiences with health issues, uh, personal losses, and ultimately, the profound personal growth, have you, you know, maybe have your perceptions of identity and purpose, have they evolved in your opinion?
That's a great question. And the answer is absolutely. In the past, I would have identified with degrees or jobs or more
Mm.
materialistic aspects. And now, if you were to ask me to describe myself, I would look at characteristics. I would hope I would be um, kind, generous, forgiving. I would describe myself along those terms. I had an interesting interview with somebody on my podcast who had been a surgeon, and I think she's been out of that realm of her life for 6 to 10 years now. Cancer, several rounds of cancer meant that she could no longer function as a surgeon. And yet she still identifies with that identity of being a surgeon. And I can understand it given all the work that goes into it. But there are times in life where we have to let go of our identities. And that's really hard to do because there isn't something standing there to replace it. You have to think hard and reconstruct yourself, if you will. And it's never easy.
Mm. But Pat, your journey, when you think about it, through really such profound changes, and really evolving your identity and purpose. That's incredibly moving to me. And it speaks volumes about the human capacity for adaptation and growth, even facing whatever challenges may be in your way. And it's powerful. And it's a reminder that we are not defined by our circumstances, but typically by our response to the circumstance. And, I just think that you know, when we can respond in a positive way or in a way that doesn't hurt us internally, we're winning right there.
I think part of it too is learning to be present.
Hmm.
When you have intense presence, you have command over yourself and what you're doing. There's almost like a gap in time opens up that you inhabit, where there's a pause between whatever's coming at you and how you choose to respond. And in that pause, you have choice. I always tell the story about my neighbor from hell. I'd been meditating for a few years at this point. Meditation's been magic for me. But my neighbor from hell's sprinkler system broke and flooded the crawl space underneath my house. So I go over and I leave a note on the door. A little while later, he shows up. Now, I've never met him. We've lived next door for years, but we've just never actually met. So I open the door and he's there with a buddy of his and he starts screaming at me. I'm like, whoa, you flooded my house. And he's just screaming and screaming. So I just got really still.
Right.
And I just let all that energy flow by me. And the stiller I got, the angrier I got. And the angrier I got, the more his friend looked at him like, are you crazy?
Right.
And finally, he calmed down and I said, let's get some information. And I had to go through this iteration several times before he would actually be civil. But the thing that was so interesting for me about that encounter was that I had the presence to be still and not react. And when I did react, I chose my reaction very consciously. And I think that that's an incredible power that we all have within us.
Incredible power indeed. And it's almost like dealing with stress. You're an athlete, or you're a high performing business professional, dealing with anxiety, and you can recognize the anxiety, but it's how you choose to react to it, which makes all the difference. And reacting to people who are clearly are not in a good place can really make all the difference in the way you react to it. Not that you don't need to feel these emotions, but how you categorize these anxiety triggers or this highly charged individual. How do you internalize it and then put it in the proper place and respond accordingly? So I totally agree. Pat, you talk about the transformative power of the present, piggybacking on what you said a minute ago, of the present moment and changing perceptions to change one's life. Could you offer some practical advice or techniques you found that have been effective in embracing this mindset?
Yeah. First, meditation. I've had a meditation practice for about 15 years now, and that has been life changing, absolutely life changing. And meditation does not have to be sitting cross legged on a cushion in an exotic locale. I mean, you might find meditation walking, you might find it in sound. There are a lot of ways to find meditation, and I think everybody can find something that suits them. Um, I also think that I think meditation helps with presence because your mind stills. When
Yes.
your
Yeah.
mind stills, you can start to watch your thoughts. When you can watch your thoughts, you can start to choose your thoughts. And that's truly profound. I think presence is something that we all have to practice. I know I practice it. And when I feel I'm drifting away, I pull myself back in and will make it a point during the day to focus on being present because it's in the present that we create everything. And in the present, there's no past or future. I see it as an expansion of time, if you will. I can remember landing my plane one day and it was on a grass strip. And I'm coming down over the trees and there's wind and everything else. And I'm coming down, down, down. And I finally, and I have 50 feet of wingspan to deal with, foot and a half off the ground. I can't make any mistakes. But I'm settling down into the ground effect, and everything was moving so slowly because I was so present that I could
Yes.
almost feel the individual blades of grass tickle the belly. It
Yes.
was just extraordinary. And I think that through flying, through soaring, I've had many moments of intense present moment awareness, which have then translated into the rest of my life.
And in another, and also to add on to it, I don't want to say another, but to add on to it, mindfulness plays a big role in that. Just being aware of things that are around you. And you mentioned meditation. And I'm a transcendental meditator.
Me too.
And yeah, TM. You are too. So
Yeah.
TM is awesome. Awesome when you're first starting. Obviously, you know this, but for the audience, when you're first starting TM, you can hear the waves of water, the ocean, and then as you continue this level of transcending, then maybe you hear the little bubble noises in the ocean. Then when you can reach full transcendence, then you hear the peace, which allows you to, at that point, just be. In the book, be here now, just be. And Pat, I totally resonate with you. That gives you a level of clarity, a level of
Mhm.
focus in your everyday life. The more you practice whatever type of meditation people like, or people want to go with, and what you've said is invaluable advice, Pat. It really emphasizes the present moment of the fluidity of perception and how it can be transformed, uh, into navigating one's life. Um,
Well, and
those insights. Mhm, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no. The thing I just wanted to add to what you're saying, and that is that I think that the reason why meditation is so powerful is it's experiential. You
Yeah.
experience this peace, and that experience becomes part of you. So all of a sudden, road rage, you can choose not to react. It may not even bother you. Carrying that peace within you is a game changer in how you approach life.
Transformative tools, that you can use navigating the unpredictability of your life. It's just those are just practical insights that provide, guiding light, for anybody who's seeking to become more empowered. And my book is called Empowered by Consciousness. So to become more empowered and just live a meaningful life, recognizing all the setbacks, so let's talk about the book and all the stories that you've written, in the book. Can you talk about, some of the stories that really, really, you know, uh, made you say, "Wow, you overcame that." How beautiful. What are some of your favorite stories that you've, written about?
Oh, they're all my favorites. I mean,
Okay.
no, seriously, but they all have different aspects to them. One I really like is Daryl Stinson. Daryl
Hmm.
Stinson was a black kid in school, and he was super smart. And he was in all the AP classes, and everyone loved him. He was just a great, personable young man. And he went out to go to the restroom one day. They had the little restroom passes. And there was a group of guys standing around and they were laughing. And he said, "What are you laughing at?" And they said, "We're laughing at you." And they were laughing at him because they perceived him as trying to fit into a white world. So Daryl went off on a tangent and he wanted to have street cred and he wanted to be accepted by this other peer group. And his life just cycled downwards. I mean, he got into drugs and all sorts of issues. It's a long story. Essentially, he hits rock bottom and he comes to realize that he has to find his own authenticity and his own identity, independent of anything outside of him. It's an incredible story of one man's really difficult search for who he was and who he is. And he's just a remarkable person. I can't say enough about him. God, favorite stories are something. I have two near death experience stories
Let's
with
hear them.
Yeah, okay. That's right. This is the channel for that. Okay. One is,
Yes.
one is Mary Neal. Mary Neal was an orthopedic surgeon at USC, headed the spine service. She was kayaking in Chile with her husband, where she got caught under a waterfall and died. A series of events that were unbelievable occurred. Um, she came back and she spent a year trying to disprove her experience because she was a tangible surgeon. If she couldn't measure it or touch it, it didn't exist. And
Mhm.
at the end of the year, she realized she could not disprove her near death experience. And she said, and this sticks with me, so her words really stick with me. She says, I went from hope to trust. Talk about a shift in spiritual paradigm and
Yeah.
life paradigm. It's just huge. Um, oh, there are so many stories. Sarah Dransfield is charming. She's a young English girl who had got osteosarcoma, a very dangerous, fast-growing cancer in her leg. She had to have her leg amputated, and she was 16 years old. She missed a year of school. You can imagine what a 16-year-old goes through with something like this. Well, Sarah, I love this, went on to meet the Queen. She went on to be on the cover of Vogue Italy, and she's doing extraordinary things with her life, including giving back to other kids with cancer. It's just a story that you listen to this, and it's amazing, just amazing what people can do.
And just a peek on the other side of it from some of the training that I received with quantum healing hypnosis and from the world renowned Dolores Cannon, bless her heart, she's passed away. These stories are sometimes given to her while she's regressing a patient in using past life regression techniques. So the near death experience story, she's regressed people before that have gone through that. And she's asking them as the patient is in this state, inducement, do you see the body? Yes, it's right there and it's not moving, but I'm outside of the body and I can see it. And she'll say, well, how do you feel about seeing your body there? Well, I think that'll make me come back. But for now, I'm loving the love that I'm receiving. This is the higher self, so to speak, or the spirit speaking through the subject that Dolores is regressing about what they are seeing actually while the body is in distress or while the body is no longer in a living condition. And these spirits are actually, they're just like us. I mean, well, we're just like them. They are knowledgeable. They are intelligent. They can actually, see the body. And for me, when I hear the story about how she spent the entire year trying to quantify this experience because she was a
Mhm.
left brainer, and we work with the left brainers. Left brainers are very, very, uh, you know, meticulous, and they want to know the correct calculations. They want to know the steps, the process. Where right brainers are creative, and they tend to use the pictures and the memories in the brain. So I've had an out of body experience that was not induced by a dead, but it was induced by me. And I write about this in my book, Empowered by Consciousness, Astral Projection. But I have induced this experience and was able to actually be on the ceiling looking down at the body, reading Dr. Bob Monroe's books, reading Aaron Pablin's book, Astral Projection Guidebook. People can actually induce these experiences and they are real because I've been outside of the body. I've guided myself through my home. I've done a lot of different things. I've been on top of the house looking down at it. And I'm not the only person. This young lady isn't the only person that's had an OBE, out of body experience. There are thousands of people who have given their account, and they're also doctors, medical doctors, just like this young lady, that have had out of body experiences, near death experiences, and have written books on it. So she is not alone, and it is an incredible feeling to go through and to experience.
Well, and I think our Western society tends to disencourage just talking about these things. Many people who go through near-death experiences won't even talk about it for a decade because they're afraid people will think they're crazy or they won't fit in. And yet their entire life paradigm has changed. I mean, talk about identity issues. It's a very difficult place to be, or it can be. And I think that as you go into other societies, they're much more open about this. David McGinley, who's in my book, he's an interfaith spiritual counselor in a cancer hospital up in Halifax. He had a near-death experience, and he talks about so many things, and he's so articulate. But one of the things certainly he comes back with is that we are aware of so little of the world.
Mhm.
He likens it, I think it was in Anita Murjami's book. She talks about awareness in these terms. Imagine you're in a huge warehouse that's utterly dark, no light, and you have a tiny, tiny little pencil flashlight beam. That's how much of the world we see. We
And
see
that is true. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm just saying that is true.
we see so little. So I think really the idea that there are many dimensions beyond what we are aware of is very reasonable. I remember when my father died, I was about 1,000 miles away, and my ex-husband was several hundred miles away. We were married at that point. I woke up about 2 o'clock in the morning out of a deep sleep, and I had this overwhelming sense of love, unlike anything I've ever experienced. And I went back to sleep. The next day, I found out that's when my father died, and the exact same thing happened to my ex-husband several hundred miles away at the exact same time.
Mm. And that is amazing, and we, like you said, the Western culture, we don't totally understand death. Eastern cultures, they embrace death as life. They believe, oh, now you're living now. Everything starts from within ourselves. To experience your life means to start to focus on everything within. And Marishi talks about that,
Mhm.
focusing on within, and then learning scientific remote viewing and learning how to use that skill. Meditation has allowed me to become a very good remote viewer. And when you remote view, you're literally moving your conscience to the location that you're remote viewing. And they have even the CIA was using this
Mhm.
program, Project Stargate. They were using this program. I write about that also. They call them it's psychic warfare. And they were using psychics to move their conscience to view different documents, view different planets. But that just really, the statement you made a minute ago about you start to, when you start to hear stuff like that and you start to experience it, you're just like, okay, now what are we really? I mean, we know that we're in these human bodies, but with that kind of ability, you start to question this entire paradigm that we're living in, this entire 3D construct that we're living in. So just absolutely amazing. We could go on and on and
Well,
get
I question this construct all the time, and I wonder what else is out there. Do we have time for a quick story?
yes, absolutely.
Because this was something that really was very profound for me. I was flying one day over Tahoe, okay? 15 meters of big white fiberglass flexing wing. And at the end of the wing is a winglet about this big.
Okay.
And I turn, and that winglet balances on a bubble of air. Now, below me, this beautiful aquamarine blue water. Above me, beautiful sky, sun streaming through the canopy. And I balance on that bubble of air, and the plane rises thousands of feet through the sky.
Mm.
At that moment, everything was one. The energy of the sun, the sky, the air, the beautiful scenery below. And it was as if I entered another dimension. I have no sense of time or how long it lasted, but it was a different dimension than what we're living in. And I carry that with me, and I am endlessly seeking to get back to that dimension.
Wow. And they call those, I believe they call those time slips. And when you slip in and out of the current state, the current dimension, and you experience another dimension, and to be able to feel like everything is one
Oh,
means that you are
total
in your
oneness.
energy body.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, indeed. Wow. So tell us about you, your website. Give the audience your website and some of the wonderful things you have going on. Let the audience know how they can find you.
The best place to start is the website, bumpintheroad.us. We're on all major podcast platforms. We're starting out on YouTube and going to audio visual shortly. We had just been audio for a while. The book is on Amazon, Bump in the Road, 15 Stories of Courage, Hope, and Resilience. And the next book, well, I have enough material for about 20 books, and I'm trying to figure out what the next one will be. I'm thinking Bump in the Road, Strong Women may be the title, because I have so many wonderful stories from both men and women. But I love to highlight some of the strengths and the courage and the willingness to step outside that comfort zone that women have exhibited. I relate to it, and I just love those stories. So bumpintheroad.us.
Awesome. And Pat, before we're going to wrap it up, but before we get out of here, do you have any last words for the audience? And maybe words of wisdom, words of encouragement? Maybe you have some new classes coming up or some freebies, just anything you want to leave with the audience.
The one thing I would leave with people is to get comfortable with discomfort.
Yes.
Get outside your comfort zone. Take baby steps, drive a different way, eat a different food. Make it a habit to befriend change, because that will make your life so much better and easier, and it will expand your life over time. So if there were one thing I could leave you with, it's get some adventure in your life. Get out of your comfort zone.
Awesome. Awesome. So beautiful. Well, I'm going to close the show out, but I want you to stay. I don't want you to go anywhere so we can finish, wrap up our conversation. So you just hold on 1 second and let me finish this out. Okay. Wow. Pat's an awesome, awesome person. She's a beautiful spirit, just very kind and very knowledgeable. And storytelling is a gift. And we're so happy that Pat shared her stories, and stories that she shared through her work. They just offer so much profound insight into the essence of human resilience and the beauty of transformational thought adversity. Pat's journey encourages us all to find strength in our struggles and to view our bumps in the road not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and self discovery. And I just want to thank Pat for sharing her wisdom and inspiring many to embrace change. And with change, courage and optimism follow. And I want to thank you for yet again hanging in there with us for another show of expansion of consciousness. And we will see you the next time. I want to leave you with 3 words: trust, relax, and discover. Thank you so much, and good night.